And hey guys.
Hey.
How's it going?
It's exciting.
Yeah, girls' night.
Yeah, girls' night.
night.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
What is it? What are we doing?
Movie night.
Movie night?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
this is
so
gonna be
excited to
awesome.
watch these movies. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
let's watch it.
okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Do you guys want to get some snacks?
Yeah, I'm so hungry.
Yeah. Let's get some snacks.
Yeah.
I don't really want any snacks. I just want to tell you guys about solar flares. Solar flares may not seem like something you need to worry about, but they're actually a realistic in-the-world scenario. Here is the sun, and this is when it's at its maximum, and it reaches its maximum every 11 years. A solar flare is basically an explosion on the sun that lasts anywhere from minutes to hours in length, and it has enough energy to power the Earth for 1 million years. Solar flares usually occur where magnetic fields connect and reconnect, which is usually at a sunspot. So this is where it's starting and ending, and both those are sunspots. Solar flares are classified with letters, with B being the smallest, going up to X, which is the largest. And each of these lines represents a 10-fold scale. And then within each of the letters, there's another 1 through 9 scale. So a C9 is a lot stronger than a C1. C's don't really cause much harm to the Earth. M's cause problems at the poles, and they can also harm astronauts if astronauts are in space. The X flares are the flares that we need to worry about. They actually can max out the scales and go higher than a 1 through 9, and the scale goes up to 17. One of the most powerful solar flares is pictured here, and it actually maxed out the scales, and they later found that it was an X45. It caused huge radiation storms and problems with satellites, which causes transmission storms and blackouts. And if a solar flare like this happens in the future, it would definitely shut down power grids, so no one in the world would have power. The U.S. National Academy of Science has warned a solar flare could cause 20 times more economic damage than Hurricane Katrina. And solar flares get worse and worse with time, so in 20 years, the solar flares are going to be much worse than we have today, and they've already caused problems. They're getting worse than in the past, and because we're so dependent on technology now as a society, if we had a solar flare of that kind of power, like the nation would be put into complete darkness. Without any technology and electricity, nations would collapse. With all technology and communication not working, the Earth would be sent into an apocalyptic frenzy. Are you guys finished eating?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was
Cool.
good popcorn.
Yeah.
It was good.
Ooh. Oh, zombies.
These
Ooh. What if zombies did like take over the world and like cause an apocalypse? How crazy
Yeah,
that would be.
I know.
Jeez.
Oh.
Ooh.
Yeah. the bathroom?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have to go
Yeah.
pee.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
So bad.
Wow, I'm glad zombies aren't real. But you know what is real? Global warming. What is global warming? Let's start from the beginning. Global warming is the average temperature of the Earth going up every year. And when we think about this problem and why it's a problem to the world is one day it's going to come back to bite us and the world's going to get flooded. Okay? So my main idea behind this, if you look into this simulation, it's a simulation of what global warming does to the Earth as a whole. The lighter colors represent a small change in temperature over time, and the darker areas indicate a big change in temperature over time. So we can see like in the top of where the poles are in the Arctic, there's a huge climate change going on over there. So temperatures are getting much hotter, and one would think, why is it happening in the Arctic? Why is that the biggest change? The biggest change in the Arctic is because, well, not only is the temperature going up, but also because when the ice and snow melts in the Antarctica and the ice caps, what happens is they lose their reflective properties. So pretty much less energy is being reflected off the Earth's surface, which means it's being absorbed by the land. Also, you can see throughout this entire simulation is that as global temperatures change, you'll see that land masses are the ones that change more quickly or the earliest in the simulation. So first, the land masses heat up, and then slowly the ocean follows suit. Of course, 2060, 2070, long time down the road, probably in our lifetime, we won't see the full effects of global warming. But what can we do to stop this? To put it at the beginning, we need to know what causes it exactly. In about the 1800s, people found out, or a lot of people hypothesized that the Earth was getting warmer, that the temperature was not the same. This is very early on, before modern science existed and all that. But as we go into the 20th century, 21st century, we now know that it's the effect of greenhouse gases. Now, greenhouse gases, most people think, are just CO2, methane, and those kind of gases, but those aren't the only quote-unquote greenhouse gases. Technically, water vapor will retain heat. Any kind of gas in our atmosphere pretty much adds to the greenhouse effect. Now, in terms of what's the most detrimental, it's definitely CO2 emissions and methane emissions. Both have gone up significantly, about 100%, double-fold of what they used to be back in the early 1900s. Pretty much as soon as the Industrial Revolution started, we started destroying the Earth. CO2 is extremely bad for the atmosphere because it has such a long lifespan within the atmosphere. A lot of CO2, there's just too much being emitted versus the plants and things that absorb it. So the problem with this entirety is when the Earth's sunlight or sun rays hit the Earth, they're trapped within the greenhouse gases. And like just the sun is heating up the Earth, technically, but that's not all that's happening because it's there's been many studies done showing that the sun has not been emitting any more energy than it has over the past 40 years. So nothing has really changed in terms of solar activity. So we know that the Earth heating up is a direct result of something that's happening on Earth. Definitely isolated to our own planetary system. Because of that, we also have the idea that because the Earth is trapping these different radiation rays in the different greenhouse gases, we can also see that there's a fluctuant temperature within the different layers of the atmosphere. So per se, like the troposphere wouldn't be the same temperature as the mesosphere, and this causes a huge problem within wind currents, within the Gulf Stream and different things like that, where wind and different levels of the atmosphere interact with each other to make weather and the different changes in our atmosphere. What happens is, because of the extreme differences in temperature, we run into things like hurricanes, tornadoes, and a lot of other just crazy weather changes. And even in the past years, we've seen more rain in places that don't usually get rain. We've seen less rain in places that usually get a lot of rain. So we can already see that global warming is having a small but significant effect on how the Earth in its natural state is working. Because we're throwing off this balance, climate change is going to continue to go to the extreme levels until to a point where it might be irreversible to change, when a giant storm just wipes out an entire nation or something like that. Of course, that's probably not going to happen within our lifetime, but until we educate the youth and other people about what's going on, it's not really going to change anything. So in all, it's a pretty realistic, or one of the more realistic apocalyptic scenarios. This is just a summary of everything. Global warming, temperature goes up. The greenhouse effect is the reason why global warming is happening, because the greenhouse are trapping the gases, in turn making the temperature go up, and climate change is the end-all result of global warming. So global warming, greenhouse gas, climate change is going to ruin the world. And yeah, thanks.
Y'all done in the bathroom over there?
Yeah.
I feel so much better now.
Yeah, I feel better.
I'm ready for this next movie.
I know.
He's going to heaven.
Oh my goodness.
That sucked. Hey guys, do you want to get some refills?
Yeah, I'm really thirsty.
Yeah, let's get some refills.
Well, other than the refill, and second coming is not realistic. Bioterrorism, it's got a scientific proof. Let's talk about what's bioterrorism. People are not familiar with bioterrorism. They're they don't really paying attention about the terrorism anymore. But let's talk about bioterrorism. The use of biological agents to kill or sicken people or animal, plant with the intent to intimidate the government or civilian population to further political or social objectives. So there's something that goes with that, as well as the effectiveness. The a biological weapon can be relatively inexpensive, and however they might be difficult to weaponize. But we'll talk about what that means to weaponize a biological weapon. Many of them are really easy to obtain. Okay. Sorry about that. Many of them are easy to obtain. It's induced fear. No, people don't know what it is. What this is. Think bioterrorism, it can be make the population fearful. It can be really easily overwhelmed with medical field and public health system. And there can be dissemination over a large geographic area. As you will see, So what do we mean to weaponize a biological agent? Usually what it means is the terrorist will take this agent, put it into the form where it can be aerosolized over a huge population. And the World Health Organization has do some modeling on this, and what the have looked at is, for example, just for example, just 50 kilogram, which is not that very much, anthrax viruses. 5 million people, like, so something like Orange County, a quarter million people would contrast the disease. And from anthrax, you have 100,000 people died, and for 19,000 people died from the tularemia. So this can be like huge effect on human being. And I'm gonna show some video clips about that.
Anthrax being used as a biological terrorism weapon dates back to as early as the Middle Ages. Infected carcasses and cadavers being used the enemy's base.
How many minutes are there?
It's pretty short.
Anthrax bioterrorism is the intentional spread of spores that cause destruction in some way, shape, or form. Anthrax is spread through inhaling, coming in direct contact with, or consuming these spores. Anthrax is a biological terrorist weapon used in 9/11 when letters laced with anthrax spores were sent to several media offices, including NBC and 2 senators.
As you saw video clip, once it get aerosolized, like, there's nothing we can do about it, because it's spread by air. So like there's no solution to, like, we can stop the viruses because it's in the air, and once it gets spread out, there's like just no way. So are they done with bathroom?
Man, these drinks are really refreshing.
Yeah, very refreshing drinks.
Oh, jeez, what's this?
What is this? Looks pretty scary. What type of invasion is this? Is that a robot? I think it's
Alien.
alien invasion.
Wow.
Do you guys have the smoke?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have this like
Craving smoke.
So nicotine. Well, I don't believe in aliens personally, but I do believe in nuclear winter. One of the main factors of that nuclear winter is that its smoke is what mainly causes the most damage. First, when the missile is launched, the initial blast of the shockwave is what actually crushes the buildings. And you see how now it'll come down in this big blast of smoke. And that's basically all buildings getting demolished. And then it'll start a huge firestorm, which basically is fueled by all the burning buildings, debris, cars, industrial companies, like people that build these things actually cause them. firestorms are basically just like the debris that get blown up into the atmosphere. And basically, have really no way of being put out that easily. It's not like a forest fire that can be called in California. It's something that basically gets distributed around like big urban cities and is a lot harder to contain. You can see once these firestorms are happening and the smoke rises, we get these like little stars. It looks like stars, but it's actually all the storms happening from all the shock waves. And you notice that it's enough to eliminate most of the major cities just by the dust. And that's basically what's happening. For the North Pole that was shown with the like, lights is basically all the gas exchange, which is actually 1,000 times greater than the force of the Hiroshima bomb. You can see that these black spots that are happening there. But this is Carl Sagan. He's a scientist that first introduced the idea of nuclear winter, probably around the 1970s. But basically, he describes that the works of suit that basically happen from the troposphere into the stratosphere get accumulated and then spread out through the direct winds and actually cover most of the world, just like it is there. And that nuclear winter basically happens by we face extremely cold weathers from down here, but extremely high temperatures above the atmosphere, which kind of brings out this twilight air in the world. Places that were once warm and sunny like Hawaii are now icy and frigid, kind of like Antarctica, as you can see. But a blast ratio from a nuclear bomb is actually 3 to 4.5 miles wide and can cause temperatures of 7,050 degrees Fahrenheit with 624 mile per hour winds is just greater than any hurricane that we've ever faced. Mainly, we still have bunkers that are built today, but they're built by German companies, which is a little ironic, don't you think? Basically, Germans started the war, and they're still sold today. But the death tolls for Hiroshima was much greater than Nagasaki because of the urban population that they had versus the hills and like kind of like the rural communities that they had there. Basically, almost tripling the death toll from Hiroshima being 90,000 to 166,000, or Nagasaki 60,000 to 80,000 people. Half of these deaths occurred in just the first day through the blast wave that you saw in the video. And then by the second day, the others, and throughout like months to come, died of like burns that they induced through the shock, and then radiation poisoning, basically like cancers, and then compound injuries from like flying debris and falling buildings, like cutting off arms and stuff. Yeah, nuclear winter is really real because actually we see kind of like regional disputes between Pakistan and Iran right now, and then also between Pakistan and India. But North Korea is still, since the last war, trying to prove itself as a big, major like nation, and that they have a problem with everyone pretty much. I don't know why, but the U.S. and Russia are pretty much basically being looked at as the two most significant people right now because we hold the most. And if we got into a nuclear war with each other, we would pretty much destroy everything. Alright.
Man, that was a satisfying swim for me.
I know.
Yeah, this is great.
What's that smoothie about? I enjoy it.
This looks interesting.
Yeah. You guys wanna test that? There we go.
What is that?
I don't know.
Do me a favor. Now, my children,
Okay.
Well, it's definitely over there.
Mm-hmm.
Did you just get a text message?
Did you get it?
Yeah, I did.
Who's it from?
Brian's here. And he brought some of his friends. We should go talk to them.
I know. Oh my god, let's go. Ooh.
Well, alien invasions and technological advances taking over the world is pretty unrealistic. But asteroid collisions ending the world is extremely realistic with a lot of scientific backup. First, I'm going to explain what a near-Earth object is, and it's commonly known as an NEO. There are several different types of NEOs, and the two main types are asteroids and comets. Asteroids are formed by warmer inner solar systems of Mars and Jupiter, whereas comets are formed in cold outer planetary systems. And along with asteroids and comets, there are sub-NEOs that come along with asteroids and comets, and those are meteoroids, meteors, and meteorites. Meteoroids are particles that come from asteroids and comets that orbit the sun. Meteors are essentially shooting stars or debris from meteoroids. And meteorites are meteoroids that survive the passage onto Earth and land on our planet. And the reason why I'm talking about asteroid collisions as a form of a realistic apocalyptic event is because asteroids are watched because they repeatedly alter our planet's biosphere in the past and including the present. And this is just a simulation of an asteroid collision. It's a bit not unrealistic, I would say, but it's an exaggeration of what a possible asteroid collision could be to Earth. Here you have your asteroid, and it's coming down to Earth from the outer atmosphere, and it's getting closer to the Earth's biosphere, slowly but surely. It's making its way. It's coming down there, almost hitting land. It's covering the Earth, causing shadows. Pretty scary. This thing is massive, which means its destruction will be detrimental to an extreme amount of the Earth, and this is just a prediction of how a major asteroid collision could wipe out the entire planet if we don't keep a close eye on asteroid and comet collisions now. And here we see the asteroid actually making impact with Earth. There's the collision, there's fire. It's extremely detrimental and just extremely crazy, if you ask me. But yeah, that's just a simulation to show you an idea of how a major asteroid collision would be. The first asteroid collision to hit Earth was approximately 65 million years ago, and it's something that you all may know as the collision which wiped out the entire existence of the dinosaurs. It was approximately 10 kilometers in size and hit what is now known as the north side of the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. It caused a global firestorm, which led to an impact winter, which killed many, many species, wiped out the entire dinosaur species, but also what a lot of people don't realize is it completely ended several different organisms' lives, not solely the dinosaurs, and that is why it was such a major deal, this first impact. Most recently, we have had a strike last year on the 15th of February in 2013 in Russia, and it was the Chelyabinsk, and it was 19 meters wide. And just to give you an idea of how strong it was, the energy is estimated to be about 500,000 tons of TNT, which is massive. The damage caused was approximately 1,000 people either dead or injured, which is absolutely crazy. Obviously not as drastic as the first collision to Earth, but still pretty detrimental. just to go over what the government is doing now and how society is reacting to asteroid and comet collisions, I want to touch on what the U.S. government is currently and in the past has done towards collisions. Since the first strike, we've been hit by several NEOs. So since the dinosaurs, several comets, asteroids, meteoroids, meteorites, etc. have made its way towards Earth. And for every 1,000 that pass the Earth's orbit, possibly one can have a collision with Earth. Some of the government precautions that the U.S. has been taking is in 1991, Congress asked NASA to do a project to detect 90% of NEOs, either 140 meters or larger by 2010. This led to programs like Linear, the Lincoln NE Asteroid Research, LONEOS, Lowell NEO Research, NEAT, Near Earth Asteroid Tracking, Spacewatch, and the Catalina Sky Survey. Along with the U.S., a lot of other countries have taken action towards asteroid collisions and trying to keep the Earth safe and just keeping an eye out for them and taking precautions in case one was to collide with Earth. Specifically, one country that has been taking a lot of precaution is Europe, and an agency in Europe called the ESA, the European Space Agency, has worked with the U.S., and their most recent development in protection against asteroids was an appeal made for 2022 for research to test the detection of asteroids near the Earth. Also, along with Europe's separate projects, they have come in with the U.S. and created a project specifically. They set up a mission with the U.S. in which they took two spacecraft, one with Europe, one with the U.S., to make contact with a binary asteroid called Didymos. The first spacecraft, called DART, would collide with the 300 kilogram asteroid, and then the second spacecraft, called AIM, would observe from a distance. Lastly, I want to talk about how asteroid collisions could actually be beneficial. So society looks at asteroid collisions firstly as apocalyptic, scary, but there's also another side of society that views them as beneficial and necessary for evolution and just life itself. So asteroid collisions can be viewed as required for life. They are beneficial to the synthesis of molecules necessary for life, for instance, nucleotides and organic polymers. Also, asteroid impacts have been studied to have two effects for Earth, which are positive. For instance, the delivery of a necessary energy source towards Earth, and also a rearrangement of the hydrological cycle. Oh, also, it is debated whether or not a collision with Earth caused the creation of the Moon, which is necessary for habitation on Earth. So, any collision with Earth could have caused the means of humans and other living things to be able to live on this planet, which is obviously extremely beneficial. So that is something that is argued. So asteroid collisions can cause the end of the world and can be necessary and beneficial for life, and that is how this is realistic.
Yeah.
They had party.
Yay.
It's
Yeah,
the
party.
year 2012.
2012.
Oh gosh. The world's going, guys.
10,
Look.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! What is this sound? What just happened? We're done.
Just
Guess it did.
Ended.
it didn't. I wasn't expecting that.
Did not see
Wow.
that coming.
Wow. In conclusion, solar flares are a realistic end of world scenario because they happen all the time and they get worse every time they occur.
Global warming, it's been going on for, or it's been known to be going on for well over 150 years. I don't know what to tell you if you don't believe in it. The world's ending.
I think bioterrorism is really realistic because you saw the video clip. It already happened once, and people are getting smart and smart, and it's gonna get it's gonna get worse, and it created by human being. So we created the virus, and then once it get aerosolized, there's no way we can stop it. So I think it's realistic.
I mean, what can I say about nuclear winter, you guys? I mean, already we've seen it happen in the Cold War and basically World War II. So I think it's pretty realistic. It's killed a lot of people so far. Did you hear that?
And lastly, asteroid strikes being an apocalyptic event is extremely realistic because it has affected it's affected Earth in the past, and it is still currently affecting Earth, and it has had many detrimental effects to Earth, and that is how it's realistic. Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoy this presentation, and there are scenarios like zombie apocalypses, alien invasions, and plenty of other things, but guys, what was that? What was guys? Where are you guys? Are you guys okay? Hello?